2017-18 Spanish constitutional crisis. Start of crisis. Referendum suspended. On September 6, 2017, the ruling Junts pel Sí, JXC, coalition and its parliamentary partner, the Popular Unity Candidacy, CUP, passed the law on the referendum on self-determination of Catalonia in the Parliament of Catalonia that was to provide the legal framework for the intended independence referendum scheduled for 1 October. The way in which the law had been pushed through Parliament became an issue of controversy. Catalan opposition parties accused JXC and CUP of fast-tracking the law through Parliament, not allowing them to appeal the law before being put up to vote. Some months later, the Spanish Constitutional Court endorsed the reform of the Parliament regulation that allowed passing the law. Shortly after the parliamentary vote, in which most of the opposition MPs walked out from the chamber without voting on the bill, the Catalan regional government signed the decree calling the referendum. The People's Party-led Spanish government under Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy announced that it would appeal the bill to the Constitutional Court, which agreed to hear all four of its unconstitutionality appeals and subsequently suspended the law and the referendum until it could rule upon the matter. Despite the referendum suspension, the Catalan government announced it would proceed with the vote anyway. This prompted Attorney General José Manuel Maza to ask security forces to investigate possible preparations from the Catalan government to hold the vote, as well as announcing he would present criminal charges against members of both the regional parliament and government for voting and signing off the referendum. The national government proceeded to deploy a series of legal measures intended to nullify the referendum, while also warning local councils in Catalonia to either impede or paralyze efforts to carry out the vote. Previously, local mayors had been given 48 hours by the regional government to confirm the availability of polling stations for 1 October. On 7 September, and under a similar procedure as the day previously, pro-independence lawmakers in the Parliament of Catalonia passed the legal framework that was to prevail the Spanish one should a majority vote for the yes to independence choice. Within the next 2 days, nearly 74% of Catalan municipalities, comprising about 43% of the Catalan population, had agreed to provide the necessary polling stations for the referendum, whereas many of the most populated urban areas, representing 24% of Catalan inhabitants, had voiced their opposition to the vote. The largest city and capital of Catalonia, Barcelona, accounting for about 20% of the region's population, was caught in the middle, with its local mayor, Ada Colau, refusing to make a statement whether the municipality would provide logistic support to the referendum or not while rejecting putting public servants at risk. She, however, voiced her support for the people's right to vote in a fair and legal referendum. Concurrently, President of Catalonia Carles Puigdemont, Vice President Oriol Junqueras, the entire Catalan government as well as parliamentary officials allowing the referendum law to be put to vote in Parliament, including Parliament Speaker Carme Forcadell, faced charges of disobedience, misusing public funds and making deliberately unlawful decisions as elected officials as the High Court of Justice of Catalonia agreed to hear the criminal complaints filed by state prosecutors. Judicial and police action. On 8 September, the Attorney General of Catalonia, José María Romero de Tejada, presented 2 complaints to the High Court of Justice of Catalonia, TSJC, against him government and the Bureau of Parliament for crimes of disobedience, prevarication and misappropriation of public funds, as announced the day before the Attorney General José Manuel Maza. These complaints included the guarantee request for the members of the government as well as a request for a notification to all mayors of Catalonia to prevent any personal or material resource, including local resources, being provided for the celebration of referendum. The court was also asked to notify the Catalan media managers of the prohibition of inserting institutional advertising or propaganda of the referendum. These complaints were admitted by the TSJC on 14 September without accepting the request for a deposit for the members of the government. A decision on 13 September from Spain's public prosecutors to order a criminal probe of all local mayors who had publicly announced they would help stage the independence referendum, totaling over 700, came the day after the Constitutional Court had accepted the Spanish government's request to suspend the second of the 2 laws that had been approved by the secessionist majority in the Catalan parliament the previous week. The probe meant that prosecutors could choose to present criminal charges, or even arrest, if failing to answer the summons, local mayors who disobeyed the Constitutional Court's ruling. As part of a series of moves to block the Catalan referendum, Prosecutors had also instructed police officials to seize ballot boxes, election flyers and other items that could be of use in the illegal vote, whereas the Constitutional Court had instructed regional government officials to show how they were preventing the vote from going ahead within a 48-hour deadline. In response, the Catalan government sent a letter to Treasury Minister Cristobal Montoro announcing that it would stop sending weekly financial accounts to Spain's central government, a previously established obligation that was meant to verify whether the region was using public money for the promotion of its independence drive, as well as a requirement for the region's access to a funding program to autonomous communities established in 2012. The Spanish government then proceeded to take direct control of most of Catalonia's invoice payments. In a search on 19 September, Spanish police seized significant election material which had been in store by referendum organizers at the offices of a private delivery company in Terrassa. These included voting cards contained in envelopes with the Catalan government's logo. The next day, the Civil Guard raided Generalitat offices and arrested 14 senior officials from the Catalan government. Most notably, these included Josep Maria Jové, deputy to regional vice president Oriol Junqueras. This came after mayors from towns supporting the referendum were questioned in court by state prosecutors. Regional Premier Carles Puigdemont condemned the actions as anti-democratic and totalitarian, accusing the Spanish government of de facto imposing a state of emergency and of suspending Catalonia's autonomy after it took effective control over Catalan finances. Public protests occurred in Barcelona after news of the arrests emerged, with left-wing political party Podemos and Barcelona Mayor Ada Colau joining the growing criticism of Mariano Rajoy's government crackdown on public servants, dubbing it as an authoritarian regression. The previous day, the Congress of Deputies had voted down a motion from Ciudadanos to support the Spanish government's response to the referendum, which was rejected by 166 votes to 158. Rajoy defended his government's actions in that what we're seeing in Catalonia is an attempt to eliminate the constitution and the autonomous statute of Catalonia. Logically, the state has to react. There is no democratic state in the world that would accept what these people are trying to do. They've been warned and they know the referendum can't take place. Rajoy also called for the Catalonia government to give up its escalation of radicalism and disobedience, calling for them to go back to the law and democracy and dubbing the referendum a chimera, as tens of thousands gathered in the streets of Barcelona and other Catalan cities to protest police actions. The Spanish government did not rule out invoking Article 155 of the Spanish Constitution, which would allow the central government to adopt the necessary measures to compel regional authorities to obey the law in practice, allowing for the autonomy's effective suspension and direct rule of the region. On 21 September, the Catalan government acknowledged that the raid and arrests in the previous day severely hampered the referendum's logistics by preventing any alternative election data center to be established in time for the vote to take place. Nonetheless, Catalan Vice President Junqueras called for people to turn out and mobilize on 1 October, turning the social response into a censure motion to Rajoy, stating that if there is any possibility of change in Spain, democracy must triumph in Catalonia. As street protests continued throughout Catalonia, additional police reinforcements were sent by the Spanish government to block any moves to hold the referendum on 1 October. Spanish prosecutors formally accused some protesters in Barcelona of sedition, after several Civil Guard patrol cars had been vandalized on Wednesday night. By 23 September, the Spanish government announced that the Mossos d'Esquadra, the regional police force, were to be subordinated to a single command dependent of the Spanish government and that the Interior Ministry would assume coordination over all security forces in Catalonia. The previous day, several hundred students had announced a permanent occupation of the historic building of the University of Barcelona, protesting the state's actions.